It's 1 a.m. and I'm still working as usual because I keep telling myself a lie that if I just finish this one piece of work, today will feel successful and I will have finally earned the right to rest. Fast forward a few months later, I'm scrolling back through my work diary to find some meeting notes. And for the first time, I really looked at my calendar as a whole. And I realized that I've been the one setting the direction in almost every single meeting. And it didn't matter whether I was the newest person in the room, the most senior person in the room, or the most junior. I was also the one making sure the work actually got done. I was already doing more than most people. I was just terrible at capturing it. That was the moment I stopped overworking from the assumption that I hadn't done enough and started documenting the facts instead. And not just for work, but across my life. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 habits and approaches that capture your progress objectively, so you can see it clearly and truthfully. Capturing your progress objectively is important because it stops you from believing the lie that you're behind, because the evidence will show you otherwise. So if you set impossible standards for yourself, you're probably prone to always asking, why am I not further ahead? But try this instead. Look at the facts. Ask, what is the evidence for how far I've actually come? And what does that tell me about who I'm becoming? That question matters because when you can see how far you've actually come, your past stops being a list of failures and becomes strategy, a tool to push you forward. I used to be scared to look back. If you're anything like me, looking back might bring up harsh self-criticism, pain, shame, or disappointment even. So never pausing to reflect almost becomes protection. But when I finally started looking back the right way, it changed how I planned my year and my days. I stopped setting goals based on hope. Instead, I built on who I was already becoming, on my strengths, new skills I had already acquired, and wisdom gained from lessons that had been carefully extracted from my past experiences. That's what this video is about. If you feel like you never do enough, or if you only see your mistakes and not your wins, this is for you. You see, perfectionistic thinking patterns, they train your brain to measure your life against everything you haven't done yet and everything you haven't become yet. It builds an internal scoreboard where you're always losing. In this video, we're going to change how you keep the score. I'm going to show you 5 practical approaches that help you see 3 key things, which I call ground gained. This is how far you've come from your starting point, what you've actually moved closer to, even if it's just by 1%. The second thing these tactics will help you see is what I call your ripple effect. What actually changed for you or others because you showed up. And the third is capacity built. What can you handle or create now that you couldn't before? These 5 methods I'm going to share with you aren't about fluffy gratitude that you write down once and then forget about. Instead, they give you 3 specific outcomes. The first outcome is greater confidence because you can see what you did and how you did it. You aren't guessing or relying on feelings, which for perfectionistic people tends to lean towards the negative. The second thing it will give you is better learning because your past now becomes data for smarter decisions, and you can build smarter plans based on your strengths, not your inner critic. And the third and final result it will get you is less friction because you uncover what's quietly blocking your progress instead of assuming the issue is always that you just need to work harder. I talk about this in detail in my video, The Hidden Ways Your Environment Makes You Procrastinate, because perfectionistic people and overachievers think every struggle is their own fault, but that's not true. You don't operate in a vacuum, so your environment will influence you. I'll leave the link to that video below. If you're watching this video, you probably don't just overwork and overextend. You tend to live in what's called the gap. If you watch the earlier videos in this series, you'll remember we talked about gap versus gain thinking, which comes from the book I mentioned called The Gap in the Gain. You enter into gap thinking when you only measure yourself against where you think you should be. Gain thinking is when you measure yourself against where you started. Most perfectionists stay stuck in the gap, Right now, as we approach the end of the year, do you feel like you're stuck in the gap? Let me know in the comments below. I'm interested to find out. Because if you're constantly comparing yourself to an ideal future that you've not even reached yet, deep down, you will always subconsciously be telling yourself things like, I can relax when I fix this. I can feel proud when I've achieved that. I'll feel like I can finally celebrate once I've become like them or like that. So you always delay experiencing joy in the present. Today never quite qualifies for it because you're always in the gap. These very human thinking habits happen because of what's called cognitive distortions, which are like tricks your brain plays on you. For perfectionists, many of them look like this: all or nothing thinking. You see things as either being perfect or a complete failure, almost like black and white thinking, discounting the positives. Saying things like that doesn't count because anyone could have done it. Mental filtering and negativity bias, where you obsess over one thing that went wrong, but you ignore the 10 things that went right. I am definitely guilty of this. And lastly, should stories and mind reading. You tell yourself, I should be further ahead, or they probably won't respect me if I don't get that right. If you recognize yourself in any of those, I want you to hear this. Do not beat yourself up for it. This is simply a pattern, a learned way of relating to yourself and the world around you. You learned this pattern because it once helped you cope or perform, but now it quietly distorts how you see your life and yourself. The good news is that patterns can be changed or used for something else that actually benefits you. So here's a question for you. If your brain is wired to live in the gap, how do you ever actually feel like you're getting anywhere? That's where these 5 habits come in. And now is actually the best time to start using these habits. Because around this time of year, everyone's thinking about next year and setting new goals, which is great. But my take is, how can you make a robust plan for 2026 if you haven't even reflected on and learned from 2025? The world is yelling, next thing, next. But over here, we're saying, yes, next, maybe, but pause. This video is that pause. If you use even just one of the tactics, habits, or approaches in this video over the next few weeks, you'll start to see the ground you've already gained before the new year starts. But before we get into them, I have a couple of caveats to share with you. Very quickly, please don't treat this like a checklist that you have to complete. Treat it more like a buffet or a pick and mix. So as you listen, notice which habit you feel drawn to the most and just use one of them as your starting point. Another thing worth mentioning is that I used all these tools I'm about to share with you to manage change and transformation projects for organizations, and then realized I could flip them to help myself and my clients with our perfectionistic traits. You can also use these tactics for any time period, whether it's for a quick daily check-in, a weekly review, a big year-end reflection. You can use it weekly, daily, monthly, quarterly, whatever works best for you. Lastly, let's be clear that progress doesn't always equate to doing more work or getting work done faster. Sometimes progress is just simply recognizing you needed rest when previously you wouldn't have. Or it could just be being still or learning more about yourself. So just bear this in mind when you use any of these tactics. All right, let's get into the first one, which is daily externalizing. This one is about capturing your days outside of your head and outside of everyone else's opinions, so that you're not relying on a mind that's crowded with bias and self-criticism. Because the more cluttered your mind is, the less likely you are to see things as clearly as you could. Now, you see, a lot of people think this can only be done with pages and pages of notebook writing, but that's not the case. Now, while yes, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that if it works for you and you like it, the truth is you can use anything. And it can be as long or short as you need it to be. Because daily externalizing is simply moving what's in your head into something you can see, touch, or hear. So that could be 3 to 5 bullet points in a notes app, for instance. It could be a few lines in any notebook at all, or a 2-minute voice note on your phone, which I personally really enjoy and value. Lastly, it could be a post-it note that you write the night before as a cue for your future self to see the next morning. Having a neat notebook doesn't matter either, because the goal isn't aesthetic or to create more pressure for perfection. The goal is to get the narrative that you haven't done enough out of your head and into the daylight where you can see it clearly. Repeating similar prompts over time while externalizing also helps you see your true progress, and it reveals patterns that you can't ignore. When I first tried this, I just simply wrote 4 bullets every evening. I call these my progress receipts. The first bullet point looked at ground gained, which I've already mentioned, and that's where I would reflect on, where did I move even just 1% closer to what actually matters to me today? The second would be my ripple effect. And this is influenced by a book I read about Nikan. And here I answer, because I showed up the way I did today, what did other people receive? The third was about my capacity built. And that looked at what would past me, so me 12 months ago, be proud of or surprised about that current me learned or did differently today. And the last one was my biggest story. What does all this tell me about the phase I'm in right now and who I'm becoming in this phase? These reflections pushed me to see patterns and achieve greater clarity, purpose, and alignment, which I talk about more deeply in my video, How to Pursue Excellence Without Losing Yourself. I'll link that below as well. After just a week of doing this, it was very hard to keep saying I didn't get enough done today, so I should keep working to feel accomplished. I didn't need to wait for that anymore. It was right there on the page that I had done my best for the day, and I had done more than enough. A single day can only handle so much, my dear friends. To take this off the page and into your life, you can begin with a basic version, or what's called the minimum viable version, and I'll be repeating this concept throughout this video. The first one is one thing you moved forward today. The second is one way you helped someone and or someone helped you. And lastly, one thing you learned about what works for you or doesn't work for you. And that's enough to start rewriting the story from never done enough to something that's more accurate and honest. If habit 1 gets the story out of your head, habit 2 is about putting that story somewhere you can literally see it. And so the second tactic is to keep a visual progress board. This is about making your work and your progress visual. And I borrowed it from a Japanese management method called Kanban, which was originally used by Toyota as a way to manage their workflows and drive continuous improvements. A lot of people talk about creating a vision board, especially at this time of year, which is great, but it captures a single point in time. The point of the visual progress board is to show how your work and activities move along 3 simple columns over time. And these 3 columns are to do, which is things you've not started, doing, things that are in progress, and done, the things that are finished. And so you use small movable cards like sticky notes to track each task or activity as they move from to do, doing, and then to done. I also personally use mobile apps for this. And if you're into vision boarding, you could actually lay a Kanban over it. Most people only have to-do lists, which often get lost or thrown away. But with your personal visual progress board, the magic is seeing what's in progress, what's in the done column, and also how tasks flow from one column to the other. Over time, you'll notice patterns in what sits in doing, for instance, and what reaches the done column. You'll see what always gets stuck, what moves quickly, and what actually matters. The board becomes a natural feedback loop for you. Before I ever used this in my personal life, I learned about Kanban through project work I did in my consulting days, where I used boards like this to simplify complex change projects. Each week I'd review the board and I could see at a glance what had actually moved. So years later, I thought, why am I only using this at work? And because of that, I set up a simple version for my own life. I now maintain a digital board and a physical done wall in my home office using post-it notes. I do love a good post-it note, my favorite things. Once I asked a client to stand in front of her done wall to see how many things did not exist a month ago, and she started crying. She could not believe how much she was doing and how much she had finished. For years, she always had the perception that she wasn't doing enough, that she was behind. But the wall, her done wall, it proved her wrong. You see, you're so busy rushing from one thing to the next that you don't even see where you're moving things forward and appreciate how much you've actually finished either. But visualizing all of it makes it more real. Here are 3 Kanban principles I borrow for my personal life. The first is to visualize the work. Get it out of your head and onto a board or a wall of some kind. The second is to learn from what you see. Use the board to see what's working and what isn't. And lastly, improve collaboratively and experimentally. You don't have to do everything alone. For instance, ask yourself, who can help me move this card from doing to done? Here are 2 of the simple reflection questions I ask myself and my clients when we look at our boards. I ask, what did you move to the doing column this week? And what got moved to done? When the done column or the doing column don't feel like enough, I ask them, what are you assuming enough should look like? And is that actually true? And if this board belonged to a friend, would you still call it nothing? Soon I'm launching a community called the Easy Excellence Circle. And when it opens, we'll have done wall rituals and practices, including sharing lessons learned from our externalizing. So to be first in when I launch, do sign up for my private newsletter. I'll leave the link to that below in the description box. To make your visual progress board really simple, you can start with a basic version, that minimum viable version I mentioned earlier. So take 1 sheet of paper or a whiteboard, it's up to you, and write 3 headings: to do, doing, and done. Pick some tasks for the week and put each one on a post-it note. At the start of the week, put them all in the to-do column and move them across as you work during the week. Then on Sunday, spend 60 seconds or more time if you have it, looking at doing and done, and say out loud what is there. If habit 2 helps you see what's in progress and what's completed, habit 3 is about training your brain to look back at that progress consistently. In the book, The Gap in the Gain, Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy talk about something called AMB, or always measure backwards. They argue that the way to measure progress is not to compare your current state to where you wish you were, but to your starting point. When you do that, you start to see every experience as a gain, and you never start from scratch ever again, because you're always standing on the momentum of what you've already learned and done. So this tactic or habit is my way of helping you actually live that out. I call it the personal sprint retro. And again, I actually first used this in my work to close out projects and improve processes, because in tech project management, a sprint retrospective is a short meeting at the end of a sprint or a set amount of time allocated to complete a high priority piece of work, where the team looks back and decides 3 key things. These things are what went well, what could be improved, and what they want to do differently next time. Super simple. So in a similar way, here's how the personal sprint retro looks. At the start of the week, ask, what if done this week would make it feel the most worthwhile? And where am I currently with it? That becomes your one single highlight and your starting point. Not only does it help you focus for the week, but it helps you choose what you'll measure instead of letting your inner critic choose for you. At the end of the week, you then ask, how did I move that one highlight forward? What helped? What created friction or got in the way? And what will I do differently next week? This tactic matters for seeing progress clearly, because it turns gain thinking into something you do, not just something you know about. And it trains you to see and make small incremental changes that get you closer to not only completing what matters to you, but improving how you do it too. If you want the simplest possible way to start personal sprint retros at the start of each week or any time period that works for you, take 2 minutes to ask this. What is my one single highlight for the week that, if done or progressed, would make the week feel the most worthwhile? And then at the end of each day, ask, how did I move it forward? Then keep repeating that as you make progress with that task or piece of work. If tactic 3 helps you see the impact you've had on your priorities, then number 4 stops you from saying, I'm moving too slowly, to asking, what in my system is making this hard? This tactic is called systems tuning, and it's a systems thinking habit that helps you recognize the progress you've made, not just in your work itself, but in how you've improved and optimized the way you do it. And yes, you guessed it, I first used this professionally in my career and then borrowed it for my personal life too. So what do I mean by systems? In this context, think of them like this. Your systems would include your space and your tools, for instance. So where you work, the tools you use, and the technology at your disposal. It also encompasses your workflow and routines, and this is about looking at how you organize and approach your priorities and your tasks. Does your approach help or hinder you? For instance, do you group similar tasks together for efficiency? What are your repeated habits? Are you aware of those? Another element to your systems would be agreements. What have you said yes to? And what are the spoken or unspoken rules that you're following? Are you carrying silent expectations? Do you take on tasks or prioritize things that you never meant to? The next element of your systems would be looking at your inner state, how you sleep, how you handle stress, your habits, and how you manage your energy. Also, how you make decisions. Your relationships are also part of the systems that influence your progress. Who supports you? Who drains you? And who are you supporting? You can make systems tuning a weekly habit by just taking 10 to 15 minutes to ask a couple of questions. These are, what did my systems make easy this week? And what did my systems make hard? And thirdly, what did I learn from that? And what might I change? Then pick one small change to test for the next week. And you can track your progress with this using your visual progress board or the personal sprint retros as well. Implement whatever that one small change is for a week and just notice what happens. Then use the systems tuning questions to look back at your progress with it. This tactic matters for seeing your progress clearly because it stops every bad week turning into, oh, I'm so slow, I'm not moving fast enough. Because sometimes your systems are the problem. So by doing systems tuning, you replace I'm bad at this with when progress feels hard, I tune my system. It also helps to reduce the bottlenecks. So it creates greater efficiency, less chaos, and more focus, so that over time you end up learning a lot more. And as your system gets better, your progress becomes more steady too and much easier to see. If you want an easy way to start systems tuning, once a week, simply write down one thing your system made easy, one thing your system made hard, and one tiny tweak you'll implement next week. If tactic 4 helps you see that it's not all on you, that your systems play a role, then tactic 5 is about borrowing new eyes entirely, so you can see your progress the way you'd see it in someone you love. And it's called perspective taking. This habit makes sure your progress isn't only judged from inside a stressed out perfectionistic mind. Sometimes your biggest problem isn't lack of progress, it's lack of witnesses. You're too close to your own life to see it clearly. There are 2 main ways to build this habit. The first is to get a perspective partner, a literal progress witness. This is someone you trust, a friend, a peer, mentor, coach, who can see your life with kinder, clearer eyes than you can. Then frequently share your progress with them. You can do this by sharing your visual progress board, voice notes, or just having a conversation about what you've been working on. Then you can ask them questions like, if you had to describe the difference I've made this month, what would you say? Where do you see progress that I'm downplaying? Your job is not to argue with them, but just to notice how different their version of your story sounds from the one in your head. You could also try something I do with clients called a third person progress report. And this one allows you to do it on your own. With this one, you write about yourself as if you were your own client or close friend. For example, if I was writing about myself, I'd say, if Louise was my client this quarter, what progress would I highlight? Which moves would I say she made that were meaningful? Would I use the same definition of enough for her as she uses for herself? So you're borrowing your coaching brain or your good friend brain and turning it on yourself. With a lot of my perfectionistic clients, before we touch anything else, I actually start with this one, the perspective taking. One client in particular had a tendency to obsess over everything she hadn't done yet and could never just say, I did well there. I asked her to pick 3 progress witnesses. She chose me, her husband, and a close friend. And I told her to ask each of us, what progress have you seen in me over the last few months? And where do you see progress that I'm downplaying? When she read what we sent back, she was very shocked. People were naming changes she hadn't noticed or would never have even counted as significant. That was the moment she realized her brain was giving her an inaccurate take on her progress. And it's what convinced her that she needed to start using some of the other tactics we've discussed in this video. Tactic 5 matters for seeing progress clearly because self-assessment can be distorted by various things, such as mood, hormones, and of course, perfectionistic thinking patterns. Outside-in views can also show you how harsh your standards are and how different your progress looks when judged with the compassion you'd naturally offer to someone else. To take away something small that you can implement this week, try doing this. Ask someone who has proximity to you. Here are 3 things I did or moved forward this week. If this was your week, would you call it nothing? And is there anything that I'm not seeing? Or another option is you can write or voice note a journal entry as if you were your own coach. So it could sound something like, this week, Louise made progress by doing X, and complete 3 different ways you made progress as if you were your own coach. So those are the 5 tactics and approaches. Which one will you take forward? Tell me in the comments below. If you do nothing else, just try starting with the personal sprint retro once a week or once a month, and you'll see your relationship with progress will start to change. Also, join my newsletter community if you'd like the resource that goes with this video. All these tactics help you see how far you have come, but they depend on something quite key, that all those efforts are aligned with who you are and what matters to you in the first place. So with that in mind, your next watch should be my video, How to Redefine Excellence Without Losing Yourself. In this video, I walk you through my CAPE framework, which stands for clarity, alignment, purpose, and experimentation. And this is all designed to help you aim high without burning out and losing yourself. In the meantime, don't forget to live a life of excellence with ease.